Hello everyone, and welcome to your first online pre-recorded 008 class. So you'll need to have your 008 book open and ready to go. We're going to look at task 2.6. So there's something that we call inferring, to infer, to have an inference of something. So we look for meaning not only what's mentioned in the text, but also what's not mentioned. So we call that looking at the subtext. So we also refer to it as reading between the lines. So writers will often give you clues that help you read between the lines. So you use things to infer the meaning. What's happening? When is it happening? Also a form of foreshadowing. So the authors imply and readers infer. So imply is I've implied something, and if you are understanding my meaning, you are inferring that meaning. So imply, imagine, is more like giving, and inferring is taking or receiving that information. So let's have a look at this part of the story. Please read along out loud with me, okay? Try and read along out loud so that we can practice your speaking. I know that might feel a little bit embarrassing, but it's the only way that we can really practice our speaking at the moment. So if you're at home, close your door. If your little sister is there, throw her out the window. If you have a brother, punch him in the face. Anything you need to do to make sure that you can be silent and make sure that you're reading along. Here we go together. The long table was covered in a white cloth and was laden with plates and trays of the most delicious goodies. There were brightly coloured cream cakes with butterfly wings, party pies, candies, coconut and chocolate covered toffee, bananas dipped in chocolate, and homemade cookies in the shapes of gingerbread men. And of course, at the end of the table, out of the sun, there was the biggest, most beautiful pink and white ice cream cake with 9 candles on it that I had ever seen. I was so excited. Okay. So we're going to infer, so using this information, it really hasn't given us any specific detail, but we've kind of painted a picture in our head, and there might be some ideas that you get from that picture that you've painted. So what kind of special occasion do you think is taking place? I'm going to give you a minute to write down what your answer is, and then we'll go through all the questions first, and then I'll give you maybe some of the suggestions that it would be. So if you have a look at it, what sort of special occasion? So it's a special day of some description. So we know that we've got an ice cream cake. I don't know if anyone's had an ice cream cake before, but they're very popular over in Australia. I like them with caramel and lots of crunchy bits as well. And there's candles on it. Now, why in the West would a cake have candles on it, or even for your special day? So it's probably going to be a birthday party. Who do you think is telling the story? Do you think it's an adult, a child, a rabbit, a murderer? I think the way that it sounds quite innocent, and they seem very excited about all of these sweet little foods. If it were me, I'd probably say it was a child. Do you think it was day or night? Have a look through the text and see if there's a word that you can see that's going to indicate whether it's day or night. So you should have been able to see the word at the end of the table, out of the sun. If the sun is out, unless you're in the Netherlands, it is probably daytime, okay? So we can infer what time it is by just using something with sun. You know, oh, if the sun is up, then it is daytime. Is the table outside or inside? So it looks like the table would be outside because it was out of the sun. The sun's probably not in the house. and the table was with a white cloth. So you'd be thinking that it's out having a garden party for a small child. Is the cake for a boy or a girl? Have a look at what they've used. There's some information they've provided there. So it would really, well, it's likely a girl because it does talk about having pink. It's got a pink and white ice cream cake. And generally, well, in the past, it has been general that girls are the ones that like pink. I do not like pink, though I like green. How many people will be involved in this scene? How many people? So remember, it doesn't tell you exactly. You have to infer from the information. What information could tell you how many people there would be? So it would probably be because of the amount of food. So you've got cream cakes and party pies and candles and coconut and chocolate covered toffee and bananas and lots and lots and lots of things. So you can imagine that there's going to be quite a few people that are there. So again, you don't have to have the specific information to obtain the meaning, and that is what inference means. So there's a difference between words that we use, and I've actually already spoken to you about connotation. I've talked to you about connotation before, but just in case you can't remember. So please write the definitions of these on your document or on your paper that you've got beside you. What is the denotation of a word? In English, and it may be so in Chinese, I'm not sure, but in English you've got, a word doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as its definition word, for instance. So if you use the word gay, if you look at the dictionary meaning, the word gay actually means bright and happy. However, as society has changed, it actually might mean sort of a homosexual or a lesbian type person. So words will have a detonation, which is the dictionary meaning. So detonation is the dictionary meaning of a word. The connotation is the emotion and feeling attached with it. For instance, you might use the word home. Home doesn't just mean the place where you live. You live, this is my house. Doesn't have the same emotion as what the word home has. So if you're talking about your home, you've got a feeling of warmth and a feeling of belonging. If you're talking about house, you just think, okay, it's going to be an image, it's going to be a building, it's going to have a bed and maybe some chairs and a kitchen in it, hopefully a kitchen. The same as I think I spoke to you before about the difference between words like freedom fighter, which makes you think, yeah, freedom fighters, versus using the word terrorism. Now, both would kind of be the same thing. So a terrorist might think that they are a freedom fighter. Meanwhile, a freedom fighter might think that those freedom fighters are in fact terrorists. So it depends on which side you are in. Similarly, if you have something like, just lost my train of thought. Similarly, you might have something like nationalism, which has a negative connotation, versus love for your country, which has a positive connotation. Okay, so it's just the emotion and feelings attached to those words. Okay. So there's several ways that you can infer meaning. Unfortunately, sorry, I can't do this activity because you're there and I'm here and never the twain shall meet. So there's several ways in which you can actually infer meaning. So we can consider the context. And I know that all of you know what the word context means. So context is the information that is around it. So consider what is around that particular word or that particular piece of information. If it's talking about wars and violence, However, there might be a difference between a war and violence now, so we might have terrorist issues, versus wars and violence during World War I or World War II. They're different experiences, and so their context, their background, their foundation is all different. So we can look at that. Look for clues provided in the examples. So they'll give examples, and you can kind of work out, okay, for instance, was it a girls' party or a boys' party? The clue might be something like pink. Were there a lot of people or not many people coming? The clue would be the amount of food. So it's actually reading on a deeper level than what you usually would. Determine whether antonyms or synonyms are used to create contrasts. So consider whether opposite or similar words are trying to be developed to create contrasts to give you further meaning. And finally, check the connotation of the words the writer has chosen to use. So an author chooses their words very, very carefully to influence the reader to go in one direction or another, to agree or to disagree, to like a character, to dislike a character. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you some time to, what I'm going to do, I'll actually pause, I will ask you to please pause the video so that you can actually read the text and answer the question. So you're going to be reading something called Living in Glass Houses. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you live in a glass house. Remember, we've got the difference between detonation and connotation. So think about a glass house. If you were living in a glass house, what would it be like? What would it feel like? Would it be dangerous? Would it be safe? Would people be watching you all of the time? All right. So I'm just going to have a check if there's any home buyers or someone that buys a home. Russia. Okay, so what I might actually do is I'll read this through with you, and if I see any vocabulary that you need to be aware of, I will stop and tell you about it, and then you need to pause the video and answer the questions. When you pause the video and answer the questions, you are going to have to send me these questions and we will go over the answers in the next class, okay? So here we go. Living in glass houses. Thanks to technological advances, please read along, by the way, please read along out loud. Thanks to technological advances, nowadays, even home buyers who live in cold climates, such as the northern United States, the UK, or even Russia, can have homes with walls of floor to ceiling glass. About 50 years ago, it was not possible. However, today, engineered glass is available that has double panes. So double panes are sheets of glass. So there might be 2 sheets of glass, which will make it stronger. And in an in-between layer of protective air or gases. The main reason why people like glass houses is because they let in natural light and views, softening the boundaries between the inside and the outside world. So you can imagine if you had living in a glass house out in the forest or in front of a waterfall, how cool that would be. The main, for some people, choosing glass is not only about looks. People who suffer from seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, experience feelings of depression during the winter caused by lack of natural light. Sad sufferers find that they feel happier in glass-walled homes. So when we are not getting natural light, we're also not getting vitamin D. And as humans, we need to have that vitamin in order to sort of continue to live and to survive. If we don't get that, it can actually affect our mood and our psychology. Of course, if glass home dwellers, remember we know the word dwellers, where you live, where you dwell, can see out, it means that outside can see in, especially once darkness falls. So as you know, if you're at home and you've got the curtains open, you turn the light on, people will be able to see inside. It can be rather like living in a fishbowl. So imagine being a little fish in a bowl and everyone can watch you, with neighbours inspecting every move. One solution is to install mechanically operated blinds. So blinds, if you don't know, very similar to curtains, but they're made of different material. It's usually harder material. There are many more technological innovations on the way for use in glass houses. These include glass products which are already available, which store energy, transmit heat, and absorb sound. To absorb sound is to take it away, okay? So it makes it quieter. All right, so all you need to do for the rest of this class is you're going to review this information and then answer these questions. So, as you can see here, by technological advances, the writer means all branches of technology. Correct or incorrect? Or not enough information. However, you need to give me the support from the text, okay? So you need to get the evidence in order to support this. This is really good practice for your essay writing, making sure that you're making a general statement or putting your topic sentence, but you're also getting the evidence from your research. In this case, the support from the text is the writer is specifically referring to advances in glass production technology. So she doesn't, he or she, I don't know if it's a he or she, so they don't actually mention all technology. They're being very, very specific about glass technology. So what you need to do is complete the rest of them. Correct, incorrect, not enough information, and then support from the text. Even if you answer not enough information, you need to explain why there is not enough information. And it's conservation concerns, that's fine. Okay, I think that you'll be okay with all of that vocabulary. So that's the only homework that I'm going to have for you today. And as usual, please take a snip of it if you've completed it on here. And if you've not completed on here, please send me a photograph of it on our WeChat group or individually, and then I can mark off that you have attended. And tomorrow we'll continue a little bit more with the reading of texts. Thank you very much for coming along, and I will speak to you again very soon.